Friday.
It is 7 o'clock, which means it's time for us to call this meeting to order, and I will do so with 7 members present, sort of. Getting their snacks. Do I have a motion to approve the, oh wait, there is a change to the agenda this evening. We will be going into executive, or we'll need a motion to go into executive session immediately after the approval of the general agenda, before we do the consent agenda. So,
Somebody make a motion to
yeah,
amend the
so,
agenda.
exactly. So we'll be needing somebody to make a motion to amend the
I'll
agenda.
move to amend the agenda to move executive session up to the beginning.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move the negotiations portion of the agenda, executive session, up to the beginning of the agenda. And with that, we'll vote to approve the agenda. We have a second. It was Susan. So all those in favor of approving the agenda as suggested, signify by raising your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Okay. So now we need a motion to go into executive session
20 minutes.
for about 20 minutes.
Give me a second.
Are we doing
You're pulling it up.
You got it?
negotiations?
Mr. President, I move that the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing matters related to employer-employee negotiations, whether or not in consultation with the representative or representatives of the body. That the board return to the open meeting at 7:20 o'clock in this room. The executive session is required to protect the district's right to the confidentiality of its negotiating position and the public interest, and we will be inviting Dr. Still and Dr. Krause.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. We'll be back at 7:20.
Mr. President, I move we come back into open session.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to come back in open session. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay. Since we're still in the item of negotiations, I'm going to ask Dr. Krause if you would give us a quick presentation about the information you just gave us regarding the at-risk funding.
Okay, as we discussed, our SO66, which is the superintendent's report, has just been turned in. We have now all of our unaudited numbers back. It looks, if we are able to retain the weightings that we got, our high-risk weighting for exceeding 50% on free and reduced lunches, right now we're at 50.2%, which was 1,200 out of 2,390.7 students. I'm not sure if the set 0.7 student eats lunch or not. Apparently they don't. That increases our weighting for that particular category from 0.7 FTE to 1.05, which is a very significant difference. If that weighting holds after the auditing, which the auditing will take place probably early to mid-December, we're hopeful anyway it'll be before the first of the year, that would generate approximately $279,000 in extra funding. If we should drop, every year when we're audited, some years we gain a few, some years we lose a few. If we lose 6 students from that free and reduced number, we would drop, as I said, from a 1.05 weighting back down to a 0.7, which would make a difference of approximately $135,000. So what I would suggest to you, as we just discussed in executive session, that you offer the teachers step down column movement, a 0.5% on the base, and then once our audited figures come out, if we retain the 1.05 weighting for being above the 50% free and reduced, which would mean we lose no more than 5 kids out of that, that every licensed staff person be offered an additional $500 stipend to go along with step column and the 0.5%. If we drop below that threshold where we're not at 50%, that's why then we would lose that $135,000 and it would no longer be there. So that would be my suggestion based on what we now know on our unaudited numbers. Do any of you have any questions that
I
you
do.
want to ask?
Brian, remember, one of the things that we were terribly concerned about was sustainability.
Right.
So as I understand the information you provided for us, this looks to be sustainable, correct?
The 0.5 on the base looks to be sustainable because we're pretty much, even if we drop below the 50% threshold, because of the number of new free and reduced students we have, we're excuse me, we're pretty much guaranteed 142,000. The step column and the 0.5% is $135,771. So that is sustainable even if we were to drop below the 50%. The reason we would like to suggest a stipend rather than anything additional on the base is we're precariously close to dropping below that 50% line, and if we were to, then anything additional above the 0.5 on the base would not be sustainable.
So it's basically an all or nothing thing if we drop
With the
below,
weighting,
correct?
yeah, there's no, right now we're at 1.05. There's nothing in between the 1.05 and the 0.7. If we drop to 49.99%, we lose that 135,000. And in our case, that's 6 kids out of 2,390.
Okay. Are there any other,
Good, thank you.
any other questions for Brian? I have a question. What is that buzzing sound?
All right. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion, if you'd allow me to.
I would allow you at this time.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the negotiating team of yourself and Brian to make an offer of step and movement and a 0.5% on base for this year, and also to authorize you to negotiate up to $500 per licensed staff member if the extra money comes in at the $275,000 for $500 stipend when the audited financials are in place.
Okay, we have a
Second.
motion?
Second.
Susan beat you to the second, Bill.
Bill, you're a little slow to the trigger.
We have a motion and a second to authorize the negotiating team to offer 0.5% on the base plus step and column movement, and if the high-density weighting holds true, that we offer an additional $500 stipend. Do we have any additional discussion on this matter?
The only thing I'd like to add is if the dollars come in, we want to offer the $500 stipend. And I think the board has always said if the money is there, we'll share the money with the staff. And again, we can't give that away until the dollars are in the bank, because the audit is what causes the extra dollars to arrive here to our district, so we want to share it when it does. So if it does, you'll get an extra up to $500 stipend for licensed staff, and that's what we've always been about if the dollars are there.
And the audit can occur anytime between December and
February.
February.
And
Okay.
historically, we've always been one of the first ones
Right.
to be audited.
And now we've added to that we've jumped up some.
Yeah, we've
In
jumped,
that
yeah,
area,
we've
so-
we've created ourselves a red flag, so that might make
Yeah,
the audit
so
come
that
sooner.
might be good and bad, but
Do we have any additional discussion? Hearing and seeing none, we will call the question, and the question is, all those in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Motion carries 7-0.
Well done. Thank you.
Now moving back to the agenda, I would accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
so moved.
Mr. President, may I do a little explaining?
You sure can.
Sorry. There's a couple of things on the consent agenda that I just feel like need a little explanation. First of all, back in August, I believe it was August 12th, the board passed 2 resolutions to to sustain the capital outlay mill levy and the adult ed mill levy. And so both of those are back on the agenda for approval after being published and waiting with no petitions after 40 days. Then legally we can approve those. Another thing on the consent agenda is the grant for Eugene Field, the 1003A grant for $22,000 to help with professional development and resources for Eugene Field as a focus school. And then there's a retraction for the addendum for milk increase of price increases for milk. That was approved also in September, I believe, and we need to retract that. several several school districts in Kansas did the same thing, approved the increase in milk prices, and then we were informed through the Kansas Department of Education that in Kansas we can't do that. So we will retract that. OPA will take care of that cost in this school year, and then we will renegotiate that with our contract for next year. And I believe those are the things that I felt like needed an explanation in the consent agenda. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any additional discussion before we vote? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Okay. All right, item 4, we have comments from the public. There are 4 people here scheduled to speak that have requested to speak. I would remind each of you that you have 5 minutes to speak, and be sure that you are not divulging individually identifiable information to a student or along those lines, or another faculty member. First on the list is Natasha Jenkins.
My name's Natasha Jenkins, and I'm a member of the Social Science Department at Ottawa High School. My family lives here in Ottawa. A lot of this is going to be a little out of place, seeing as how we had some discussion about negotiations earlier. Ultimately, I just wanted to restate what I said a couple weeks ago about conversations between my colleagues, hearing that teachers are working harder than ever in their careers, already fitting additional responsibilities into their full schedules. Our schedules have changed, demanding that we fit more Common Core, build your own curriculum, the creation of common assessments, analysis of testing data, professional development, differentiated lessons, the list goes on, into less time. However, when we look at a teacher's schedule, you will find that where there's a will, there's a way. I think that the negotiations and the discussions that the board has had so far this year have proven at this point that where there is a will, there is a way, and I would like to thank you for your efforts.
Thank you. Okay, Terry Howard.
Bless you.
Terry, you have an inimitable way of expressing yourself. Yeah, well, I like that one a heck of a lot better.
Yeah, if you want to say pass, you're welcome to do that. Bill Ketchum.
Bill, it's nice to see you again.
It's been a while.
It is, it has been a while.
When speaking, please face the board, not the audience. Thank you. Meeting icebreaker, 2 truths and a lie. Like working on cars, like working on computers. I enjoy going to school board meetings.
Going to school board meetings is a lie.
You don't like cars. You don't like cars.
It's been a while since I've been here. Recognize some of the members on the board. I was in your place for a year in about 1996. Right now, I have no kids in USD 290. I do have someone on staff. And usually when I would come speak to the board, you would hear me talk about my favorite subject, which is science and math. Okay? I haven't left it. I haven't been here in a while. Okay, I follow what you guys do to some limited extent. I still don't believe that USD 290 has tried to make any improvement in science and math. And this isn't just an indictment on USD 290. I could probably go to any school district. However, this is where I live, and this is the school district that I can try and make a change on, and I would still encourage you to see what you can do to improve science and math. especially elementary school. It just doesn't happen. If you don't create the spark there, you won't carry it through. Okay, so I was on the board in about 1996, and I had 6 fellow board members, and we were a cast of characters. And it's not easy being in your place, and I appreciate what you do. I hear that funding in the state is an issue.
You've heard correctly.
I hear that USD 290 did not join the suit dealing with funding. You hear correctly. So, I could surmise that the board doesn't feel it's strong enough to take a position on that with the state. Well, the horse is out of the barn, doesn't matter right now. We'll figure it out and go from there. When you board members came tonight, could you feel the energy in the room? Probably. So since I haven't been to board meetings, I hear from local media that one of the differences was about $50,000. And I don't know if that's true or not. It sounds like, from the news that was presented at the beginning of the board meeting, and from the reaction from members of the public, that things are going better. But I will tell you that there has been channeling of a lot of energy from education to just administrative overhead. And that is a real distractor to the educators as they try and do their tasks during the year. I don't know what you guys know, but it would just seem like it would be a sad path to travel if we're going to have differences over a small amount of funding. Thank you for your time.
H.J. Highstand.
Good evening, Board. Normally I'd just say pass, but I'd be remiss if I didn't step up here and say thank you very much for the action that you took earlier for reopening negotiations, for coming forward with another proposal. We appreciate your efforts, we appreciate your analysis of the budget, and we really appreciate the offer that you brought forward tonight. Thanks.
Thank you.
And I want to say something too. I know I didn't put anything for comments from the public, but
You don't have to.
that's okay. But after listening to you last time, I wrote down everything you said, and as you were talking, I was sitting there going, I understand. Been there, done that. I know exactly what you're talking about. And all I want to say right now is thank you all for the hard work that you do, for ignoring your families over the kids in your classroom, thinking about how you're going to change lesson plans while you're drying your hair in the morning. Thank you, because no one ever tells you thank you, or very few people tell you thank you, and I know how hard you work, and I do thank you for the job you do. So.
Well said.
Okay. Obviously, I think we'll probably be trying to get a meeting scheduled very soon to move forward on that piece of it. I'm hoping so. Okay, moving on. Reports and presentations. Before we go any further, there's something missing on the agenda I'd like to see if it's okay for us to add, and that is board reports. Do we have any board reports this evening? Is it? Did I miss it?
No, I didn't.
I don't think it is. I think I missed it
see it.
last week also. So if we could, is it, would it be acceptable for us to amend the agenda to include board reports?
Well, we can,
You can just do.
We can just,
Yeah, just-
Anybody got anything to say?
yeah, anybody got anything to say?
I'm just looking forward to Communities and Schools report. That's exciting.
I know.
Two.
She's always exciting.
You had a couple that
I
you
did. I've been to the site council for the middle school for the last couple of times since we've not had board reports. We're working hard on accomplishing Dr. Stroh's agenda of finding what needs to be done at the middle school. It's exciting because I've not been part of a middle school before. When we were all assigned our buildings, I obviously wanted an elementary school, and I got middle school, and Shannon said, Linda, get out of your box. So I did, and I'm in the middle school, and it's been fun, and I think there are a lot of very exciting things going on. And the Communities and Schools person is awesome. He is awesome. So anyway, it's been fun.
Any other board reports?
Garfield had their site council meeting. We went. They had snacks. They were delicious.
They will be better next time.
Yeah,
Each time they get better.
a little good.
Yeah, Bill.
I'm not at liberty to say. I don't want attendance to get out of control. We had a good discussion, though, about facilities, needs, and desires for Garfield, both short-term and long-term, and had some good ideas on that, and also talked just briefly about what it would be to make that a 4-unit school as opposed to a 3-unit school. So we had a good discussion.
Well, I know that the high schools is tomorrow, is that right?
Today.
Today. So I was in a training all day, then I'll be in all week, so.
It was a great meeting. We talked about Common Core and we talked about advanced ed accreditation and a lot of the information I will talk with you during presentations about accreditation. We also talked about the ACT test, and I think I can say that unanimously they were very excited about the fact that we can select an assessment for our state assessment, and they were very much in favor and 100% in favor of the high school doing the ACT. Anything else, Ryan? That's right. Cassie was there and presented the great work that they do with communities and schools, and so that was fantastic.
Dr. Cobbs, I also got to say, my wife and I really appreciate all of the information coming out of you of what's going on in the high school. It's
Definitely
greatly
agree with that.
appreciated.
Yep.
Any other board reports? Hearing none, we'll move on to the most exciting report of the evening, Communities and Schools.
Oh, ouch. Okay.
Everybody's anticipating this one.
Well, one of the things that I have come to realize is that for the first 5 years, it was in many ways just me, and the fidelity of the program was probably not quite where it should have been, and we were doing really good things, but I just want you to know currently it's amazing what we're doing. And so I want to just do my little elevator speech. This elevator speech was actually written by Lisa Rivers, she's our new site coordinator at Lincoln, but she summarized us so well. I'm just going to follow along and give you her elevator speech. Communities in schools surround students with a community of support, empowering them to stay in school and achieve in life. What a powerful thing to say. Achieve in life. So it's more than just getting graduated, but that's our first step. Communities in Schools works within the school system to address underlying factors that hinder success. We serve the most vulnerable students in a one-on-one relationship while also providing school-wide programming to improve the overall culture of our schools. So what sets Communities in Schools apart is our placement of a dedicated staff member, and that's what has happened in the last 2 years. We are now in 4 of the 5 buildings, and inside our partner schools, because we believe it's the relationships that we build with kids that change their lives. The programs are the vehicle to build those relationships, but it is the relationships we build. The site coordinator works with school staff to identify students at risk of not graduating and to assess school-wide and individual student needs. Armed with this critical information, CIS site coordinators establish relationships with local businesses, social service agencies, healthcare providers, churches, volunteer organizations, anybody we can think of that might bring something to the table to our kids. And they gather these available resources and get them to where they're most needed, and that's with our kids. Whether it's food, tutoring, eyeglasses, or just a safe place to be after school, when these needs are met, students can concentrate on learning. And Communities in Schools is now 35 years old. Best kept secret in the country, I think. We've grown from a handful of students to now serving 1.26 million kids in the country, in nearly 2,700 schools in 26 states in the District of Columbia. CIS has become the nation's leading dropout prevention organization, and the only one proven to increase graduation rates while decreasing dropout rates. So by empowering students to stay in school and achieve in life, we are building a stronger community where every person is capable of reaching his or her greatest potential. Well, obviously, that's what we want. We want to be able to continue to make sure that we have an educated citizenry that can come back and serve on the school board and be our teachers of the future and be our leaders here to keep things going. I heard our state president talk, and she said, we can change communities and schools, and every person who works with young people can change the trajectory of their stories in a positive way. And I love that image, that we can change the trajectory of their stories. We can change it to go down the tubes, or we can change it to give kids a chance to do the three things that we talk about all the time, which is to dream big, work hard, and stay in school. The last thing I'd say before I show you a very, very short video, and some of you maybe have already seen it, but in addition to our little tagline that goes with our mission statement about dream big, work hard, and stay in school, because we don't just say dream big, kids. We push them to work hard. We also want you to know that our staff, we start with our hearts, we lead with our hearts, and then we use our heads to figure out how to make it happen. Cassie Myers is here tonight, and in the summer, we were asked to submit stories from site coordinators of success, and she submitted a couple stories, and the national office, which is near Washington, D.C., chose 7 stories to tell their site coordinators and the students, and how just one caring person can make a tremendous difference. It's called Changing the Picture. It is a campaign just to get to people to understand what we do and just to get our name out there. But I think we should be very honored that Ottawa was chosen, Cassie in particular, and that the young person who told her story, which wasn't easy, I know. I think you'll be pleased. The other thing that you should know is that this was an amazing experience. They flew out were in Hollywood and got to work with an Academy Award winning filmmaker, documentary maker named Errol Morris. And I don't think anybody in the room can say that they've had the same experience. So we're going to show right now there are 5 stories. I would highly recommend everybody just go to changethepicture.org and you can look at all of their stories. Tonight we're going to just look at the general kind of overview, and then we'll look at Cheyenne's story.
My grades were bad. I would get D's and C's. It got worse and worse and worse throughout the years. I mean, it was just rough focusing on school when your mother, who acts like a child, is somebody you have to take care of.
I appeared to be doing good at my school life, but if you would see me at home, it would have been a completely different story.
There are students who need somebody. You don't have to have the answer, they just want you to listen to them. So once you figure that out, it's good.
If something was going on at home, we would go just stop by Miss Liberty's office and talk to her.
They can trust someone, and it could be the first person they've ever trusted in their life.
I feel very empowered to make positive choices for my students.
If you looked at my transcript, you can see a huge difference.
Communities and schools, changing the picture of education for over 1.2 million kids every year.
I hear people say we can't save every kid, but I think that we can.
And this is Cheyenne, her story. And Cheyenne is still working on things. But that's the whole point. Well, I say we, Cassie hasn't let go of her. She's going to keep working with her.
I know that she had not had dental care for about 8 years.
I mean, I was teased as a kid a lot, so
I see the kid who's being bullied, and I see myself.
they just call me mean names and be like, oh, well, you have buck teeth, you're a beaver, just rude things that hurt a lot.
I got made fun of. I had a bully who bullied me every day.
So it was hard to focus on school.
I called one of our local dentists, and he said he would do the dental work for free.
She got it fixed. I don't know how she did it, but she set it up, said be at the dentist at this time and you're getting your teeth fixed.
This past year, she completely turned around. She is a very, very resilient child and will do great things. I completely believe that.
Without Cassie, honestly, I have no clue where I'd be right now.
Communities and schools, changing the picture of education for over 1.2 million kids every year.
So I think that kind of sums up what we do. The last of our little phrases that we say is whatever it takes. Thank you.
Thank you. Just real quickly,
Mr. President, may I say something? You know, when I met you many years ago, and you started on this journey, you released the butterflies for the kids at Hawthorne to excel. And who would ever thought the butterflies for your own journey would bring us to Cassie and some of the great things you've done?
I know.
Thank you very much.
It's very cool.
Very cool. Just as a curiosity, communities and schools is generally grant funded to a certain level, correct?
Well, make the ask. After that, we got to do a
Yeah. Well,
Make the ask is what I want you to do.
yeah, I can't. It's United Way blackout. I can't ask for any money. Actually, the school district is very generous, and that takes care of my position. And of course, we have space and computers and phones and things. But right now, we have a TANF grant that pays for the two full-time site coordinators, who are Stephen Lane and Cassie, at the middle school and high school, and then through grants and fundraising. But you know, it's always we're always like, okay. You know what I've learned is it's gonna work. It just is. But we always appreciate all the support and all the people that signed up to do United Way this year. That just makes a tremendous difference. It just does. It will pay. United Way is hoping to raise enough to give us. It will pay for a half-time site coordinator this year, which is huge. We started out with $5,000 and then increased to $10,000, and they're going to give us $15,000 if the goal is met this year. So, and that will take care of one. And so then we just need to find room for two, and then we have to find money for the resources. You know, one of the things that you know, I've talked sort of in generalities tonight, but I'm amazed what our kids don't have.
Well, I think, you know, it's wonderful that communities and schools can fill in those gaps as much as they are able.
Yes.
And it would be nice to be able to do more than that. And so.
Well, we just know we go one kid at a time, one step at a time, and
Absolutely.
that's all we know.
Absolutely. But you know, it says a lot about us as a district that we did get at-risk funding, at-risk waiting. So I think that's something that we as a community need to remember. That we do have a lot of people that need that extra help, one kid at a time.
One kid at a time. And we have hungry kids. We feed, the Back Snack program feeds kids on the weekends, and that helps a lot. So that means they get at least 2 meals every day during the school week, and then they have food for the weekends. we're trying desperately to keep food in what we call our food bowls at the middle school and the high school. Amazingly, it's pretty much always the kids who really need it who come by. We try to give high energy foods, fruits, granola bars. One of the church youth groups just brought stuff by which the kids will love, but it's not probably high energy food. But what a cool thing for them to do. So, and there's just myriad of other things that these kids deal with. And I've been in education a long time, and I just continue to be shocked with what kids, and they still come to school. They still come to school. And all of those kids who are a problem have a story. And we just have to remember they have a story. And whatever that story is, it's why they act the way they do. And if you knew that story, you'd change the way you felt about that kid. So, anyway, we're so glad we're here. Thank you.
Well, I just remember when my first graders would get their backpacks on Friday, one little guy would come in just so happy, big smile, and look at me and say, I get to eat this weekend. You know?
Yep.
Just melts your heart.
Yep. Okay, moving on to the adult learning report.
Thank you, Becky. That's always so heartwarming to hear those stories and know that we can always do something. My first report is about Future Visions, the adult learning program that's downtown on Main Street. And this particular report goes with our board goal number 2, which is USD 290, will communicate the facts and needs to our community. So I just have a few facts about Future Visions, and at the end of my report I would invite you to ask whatever questions you have. This is not an action item, it's simply information. This program is an online program. It uses the curriculum E2020, and it's for students who are 18 years of age or older, and they do take out of district kids, and they do take homeschoolers. Greenbush runs the program for our district, and it's funded through the State Department of Education. Greenbush gets the base state aid per pupil. USD 290 gets all the weightings. So it's a pretty good split. If there's a loss in funding, if the program doesn't pay for itself, Greenbush takes the loss. If there's a profit, then we split that, the revenues 50-50. In the past, the typical FTE number was around 50. Last year, excuse me.
It was around what number?
Last year, the FTE number was 37. This year, the FTE number is 33. And what we know is as the economy gets stronger, people who don't have their high school diploma typically get jobs and don't go back to get the high school diploma. So as the economy gets better, there are going to be fewer people typically in these kind of adult education programs, which I found interesting. But on average, excuse me, on average, Future Visions graduates 10 students per year, and the average age is between 20 and 25. The students all work most of the time at home, online on their computers. If they need extra help with any of their classwork, they come into the center, and there's a certified teacher to help them. I've been down there a couple times. I haven't seen a student yet. So they're open from early in the morning until about 8 o'clock at night, and they're open on Saturdays. So sometime you ought to stop in and visit with them, and they can tell you a lot more about their program. As kids come into they're 20-year-olds, 18 to 25 really. As they come in, they're assessed on what their skills are, and then they're assigned computer work at the point where their skills start, and then work through a program so they can get a high school diploma. The diploma they get is from Ottawa High School. So that's the information I have. What other information would you be interested in?
Who's the director?
Kirsten Olson.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she took over 3 or 4 years ago. Maybe 2 years ago.
Probably. Other questions that you have?
No, it's a great partnership. It's a good, valuable program for us.
Do we know what happens with them afterwards? Is there any, like, after they get their diploma, any tracking to see, do they?
They do know sometimes that kids that get their diploma go to junior college, but they don't always know. There's not a good tracking system so far as I can tell. Good question.
How does Future Visions differ from like just getting a GED?
A GED is a test, and it's different than getting a high school diploma. They're supposed to be equivalent, but you know, you'll notice on papers and so on, it'll say high school diploma or GED. It's a different test. In high school diploma, in this work, kids take classes, they do assessments online, and they move to the next level and so on. In a GED program, it all hinges on the big test at the end of the coursework, or however you do your GED work.
Now, we also have an adult ed option through Neosho County.
Yes.
And how is that different than?
That's a GED program.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions about Future Visions? Okay. My second report is an action item, and I would just like to say that there are really 3 options in terms of action: to approve, to not approve, or to ask for more information, and we can bring this back to you at the next meeting in October. This report is on accreditation, and it goes with board goal number 1, which is USD 290 will have a plan for curriculum instruction and assessment that is continually measured, analyzed, and refocused. And this report goes really with the refocused part of that goal, because accreditation is really the framework for school improvement. It's quality control. I'm going to show you 2 accreditation models. The first one is the Kansas State model. This is in draft form. It is not ready for use yet. There are many great things about this particular model. You'll see on the outer part of the circle: rigor, relevance, relationships, and responsive culture. So everything in this accreditation model is focused on those 4 areas. And then you'll see as the inner circles, community, innovation, curriculum, college and career readiness, you'll see all of those as they head into the middle, which is results and achievement growth. For each of those small circles, there is a separate rubric. Now, this hasn't all been worked out yet, but each of those rubrics is very big and very cumbersome. The model for the state, as I said, still in draft form, calls for districts to keep artifacts in each of those areas. So, for example, we would have artifacts in the area of relevance. We would have artifacts in curriculum, instruction, student engagement, and technology. Every 3 to 5 years, we would have an internal team, our own internal administrators, teachers, academic coaches, and so on, would review each school's artifacts for each one of these areas. And then also based on AMOs, determine if the school was accredited. That's how they have it initially set up, but again, it's draft and things might change. Amy, if you'll go to page 6. I want to show you what the draft scoreboard, if you will. You can see each of those areas, and whoops, that's okay. In each of the areas, a school would get a score, and you might be in the implementing or transitioning or modeling. And you can see that although each of those areas are critically important and very good, you can see how cumbersome this is. Last year, when I was in Hutchinson, we were asked to pilot field test I believe it was the relevance rubrics, and it was 22 pages for one area.
One area is?
One area, which would be the green area relevance. Okay, so this is very cumbersome. And as I talked with Scott Myers from the Kansas State Department of Education, he told me that this past year, all schools in Kansas were automatically accredited. This coming year, all schools in Kansas will be automatically accredited again. And it could be possible that a third year, all schools in Kansas could be accredited automatically. That concerns me greatly. And as I spoke with administrators a couple weeks ago, they're deeply concerned about that also. Because as I said, accreditation is really our framework for school improvement. It's what we measure how well our curriculum, our assessments, and our instruction is doing compared with the rest of the world. So there's another accreditation model that's an international model, and it's called Advanced Ed. You may have heard about that in years past, called NCA or North Central Accreditation. North Central Accreditation has now become Advanced Ed, and it's an international system of school accreditation. It's research-based, and it's based on standards. And so on the screen, we're going to scroll down and just show you. Let's start with page 2. We're on indicators. We could go back up to page 2. There are 5 standards. Each of the standards has indicators. So standard number 1, purpose and direction, and that's defined. And then for purpose and direction, in a couple of minutes, I will show you what the indicators are. Then standard 2 is a remarkable standard that is almost unheard of in terms of accreditation, governance and leadership. You'll find leadership, but almost all accreditation models except the Advanced Ed model includes the Board of Education. You're the governance body. You're part of accreditation. You're very much a part of the importance of student achievement, making the decisions, concentrating on student achievement. Teaching and assessing for learning, resources, systems, and support, using results for continuous improvement. Outstanding standards, very straightforward, well-defined. If you'll go to page 3, I'll give you a look at, and I put these standards on board docs if you'd like to review them. So for example, here's the governance and leadership standard. And you can see the indicators. The governing body establishes policies and supports practice and ensures effective administration of systems in its schools. Okay? So each of those indicators, and it's the same for each standard, each of the indicators gives you a more defined role, a more defined expectations. So in my view, this model has been around for 50 or 60 years. It is revised based on research. A number of schools in Kansas and a number of international schools are accredited through Advanced Ed. The most important belief in Advanced Ed is that schools are not a system of schools, but rather a school system. So rather than USD 290 being 5 different schools, really we're one district, and we work together on all of these standards and all of these indicators as a framework for our success. As I talked to administrators a few weeks ago about accreditation, one of the things that they talked about was the need for direction in terms of what do we do? What data do we keep as we're transitioning from the old retired standards to the new Common Core standards? As we change from the old assessments to our new assessments, we need a framework for what we're going to do. So our two choices really are the KSDE draft model or the advanced ed model. So my recommendation is for the board to approve that we be advanced ed accredited. The cost for this is $1,200 a year for all 5 of our schools. It includes, pardon me? For all 5. We would be accredited as a system. We would be accredited as a district.
So $1,200, that's pretty good.
It is.
$200 a school.
Yeah. One of the things that is so impressive with advanced ed, that's kind of the opposite with the state model, is advanced ed brings in trained educators from other schools. I'm a trained person, so I might go to Concordia or several of the other schools in Kansas that are trained and that are advanced ed accredited, and go through their standards and their indicators and write the report for them. So if we choose to go this direction, we would do a needs assessment first with the help of the advanced ed group. And then within the next couple of years, we would prepare for an on-site visit of educators who are not in our district. The opposite is true for the state model. We would prepare everything, but our team would come from within our own school. I think there's, we have a lot of experts, but I think that it takes somebody else looking in to give you advice sometimes. So that's another strength of the advanced ed program. Just some of the schools in Kansas that are advanced ed accredited: Arc City, Atchison, Augusta, Concordia, Central Heights, Hutchinson, DeSoto. You'll find most of the private schools are advanced ed accredited, including the accelerated schools of Overland Park, Bishop Ward, Christ the King in Topeka. Many of the Catholic schools in the Wichita area are advanced accredited. So they have a long history of some great work. So what questions do you have about accreditation?
I read this stuff pretty thoroughly, and I had some questions on the indicators 4.1, etc. When it talks about the system, the system what is the system? Can you define what the system is?
Great
Because how
question.
can the system hire and fire? How can the system maintain facilities? I didn't understand what it was.
The system is what process do we have as a district, for example? The system really means the district as a whole. So, Ottawa High School doesn't do it one way and Garfield would do it another way. The system is expected to all adhere to the same processes.
Okay, and I also Googled newspaper articles about this, and I thought it was really interesting that in 2011, I think, the advanced ed actually but questioned a school board about their role in that they weren't doing what they were supposed to do to accredit the school district.
How
which
dare they?
I thought that it was in North Carolina that happened.
To me, that's one of the great strengths of this model, because I think so often the school board is left out. While you make the policy decisions, you make a lot of decisions, but in many of the things that we do as a system, the school board is not included. You get the report, you find out the information, but one of the strengths I think of this model is the governance is really a big thing, and that the school board is really part of the system. Other questions?
The state assessment, who's developing that? Who's on that committee? How's that happening?
That's very interesting. They had a number of different groups of people from around the state. Some were university people, some were classroom teachers, some were administrators, some were site council members, and so on, people who were interested in creating this rubric. And so for each of those areas, rubrics were created. Some of them within the same rubric, the same people or the same group of people didn't write the same performance levels. And so they were very different. So there were a lot of people from all over the state that wrote those rubrics, which made it even harder to understand and to abide by.
From the section you were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
is it 22 pages for all 4 of the subsets of that section, or is it 22 pages for each one of the 4? So you have 88 indicators, or 88 pages of indicators.
I've only seen the rubric for the one area, and it was 22 pages for that one area. So I suspect that, you know, some are more and some are less.
Only God knows.
I know. I don't want to know. I couldn't read it anymore. Other questions that you have about accreditation?
Is there any chance that the state wouldn't accept this, since it's the history of NCA before, now it's advanced ed? Is there any chance that they could wave the magic wand, or do you see it?
Thank you for that question. I meant to address that. I spoke with Scott Myers at the State Department, and he said we've always honored advanced ed and NCA's accreditation. And another concern that we had was with Eugene Field being a focus school, we don't want to add any additional record keeping or any of those kinds of things. And so these standards fit right into the work that they're already doing with the indicators for leadership and so on. So my understanding, as clear as I can get it from the State Department, is they honor this. And there are a number of Kansas school districts who are saying, we're not waiting. We're doing advanced ed. So.
Any other questions? I'm sold on it.
I'm willing to make a motion that we approve the district seeking accreditation through advanced ed.
Second.
A motion and a second. Did you catch which one got the second? I'm giving it.
Yeah.
Giving it to him
Well,
first.
It was a timing issue. I'd go with
Yeah.
2.
I heard him before I heard him, and it may have been distance, but anyway, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve going for accreditation through advanced ed. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those.
Could we lose our jobs over this?
You could.
No.
Huh? You don't think they'll come in and?
No.
We'll train you up, Bill. Don't worry.
Just give us
I got a
extra.
lot of work to do.
They give us extra meetings.
Extra
No.
meetings?
No, they tell you how you're doing, and you can improve or not.
Been doing that for years.
There you go. Okay, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Okay. We don't have anything in item 6 according to the agenda. We've already done item 7. Do we have anything for executive session for personnel?
Yes.
Okay, how long do we need?
10 minutes.
We need 10 minutes. So somebody want to make that motion?
Did I get it, Mr. Chairman? I move that the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters for non-elected personnel, that the board return to open meeting at 8:35 in this room. The executive session is required to protect the privacy interests of an identifiable individual, and that Dr. Stroh and Dr. Kraus be invited.
Second.
A motion and a second to go into executive session for 10 minutes. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. We'll be back in about 10 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we return to open session.
A motion, do we have a second? Second. A motion and a second to turn to open session. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay. Item 9, approved personnel report.
I'd make a motion to approve the personnel report as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the personnel report. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Item 10.1, announcements.
I have a couple of announcements. First, I just want to say thank you on behalf of the whole community, really, to Rex Carswell for the fireworks at
cool.
Wasn't that awesome? Loved it. I took pictures and they sure didn't turn out, but it was beautiful to have fireworks at homecoming. So that was very nice. And then my intention was to make the announcement of our unaudited numbers and so on. But I just want to give you one number that shows that, a couple of numbers that show what a difference it makes to have those 7 extra kids free and reduced. For example, last year, our FTE was 2,410. This year, our FTE is really close, 4,707. Okay, but the difference in weighting is almost 100. Our weighting last year was 3,799, and our weighting this year is 3,848. So that's pretty remarkable. That's what a difference the high density weighting can make. And then my final announcement is with the federal shutdown, we will not know whether we get our federal money in November. And so that might start to affect some programs and so on. We have some cash reserves that we can use for about a month and a half. But beyond that, then there'll be some pretty deep concerns in terms of making payroll and so on. And we're in better shape than many districts. So we just hope the federal shutdown starts back up. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Is there an idea as to when those constraints would come into effect for us?
Well, Dale Dennis said that if the federal shutdown is still going on, the first part of November, then it isn't likely that we'd get a full payment of our federal dollars in the month of November. So I'm sure as soon as, that's all worked out and it starts back up, then we would receive those funds. But that's one of the reasons we keep our cash reserves, so that when those things happen, when state aid is late, this happens to be kind of unusual to have a federal shutdown, but we have the money in reserve so that we can make our payments and pay our staff.
I have an announcement to make. After 2.5 years, I finally figured out how to keep the chair from falling backwards on me.
Oh, there you go.
Cool, very good.
I'm slow, but I can be taught. Any other announcements?
Joint city-county.
That's right. Joint city and county and USD meeting will be here on Wednesday at noon.
You be there?
I'll be here
At noon?
Wednesday at noon.
I will be
I'm gonna try. If I get out of seeing patients, I will.
Because we missed the last.
I'll be at the Capitol Wednesday.
All right. Susan, you gotta be here. Linda will be
I'm
here.
gonna try.
Okay.
It'll be in this room, right?
Look at my book to see what my schedule was.
It's clear.
Is it, how long does it last?
An hour.
Hour and you get a meal out of the deal.
But if you got good
And it's
conversation
here?
going, you can stay as long as you want and talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am, as long as I can get done with
We need
patients,
to-
I'll be here.
Keep networking with those dudes.
Yes. Yeah.
Any other announcements? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd so move.
Second?
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
If you're opposed, you can keep sitting here.